Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to take a look at how to create a Hello World.NET Web API application. So let's go ahead and load Visual Studio. We're specifically looking at the .NET framework today, so let's go ahead and create a new project. We want to select ASP.NET Web Application .NET Framework. I've got it on the left hand side because I've used it recently. If you haven't, let's do a search for it. Type web application. There we go. As you can see, there's two different types. Today we're looking at the .NET framework as opposed to .NET Core. So click on ASP.NET Web Application .NET Framework and click Next. I'm going to go ahead for the purpose of this demo and leave everything as default, but you want to make sure that you're using the latest version of the .NET framework unless you've got a good reason not to. So let's go ahead and click create. So here we need to choose what type of application we want. As you can see, we've got web API here, so let's go ahead and click create. It's also worth noting probably that if you click MVC, you can see on the right hand side here, add folders and core references. MVC is already ticked, but if we click on Web API, notice that MVC is still ticked because Web API is a type of MVC project. It shares lots of core references and folders. So that's just something to bear in mind, that MVC and Web API have a lot in common. So anyway, click Web API and create. We'll let Visual Studio do its thing in the background. Okay, let's go ahead and dismiss this notification, and then let's have a look at what we've got to play with. So click on play. It's going to open up in the Edge browser. Yours may open up in another browser depending on what you've set as default. So as you can see, we've got like a start page here. If you click on API, as you can see, we've already got one out the box, an example: get, post, put, delete. So just make a note of what's currently there. Let's close this down. We want to stop debugging, so click stop. Go to controllers, right click controllers and click add new item, or just click on controller, one or the other. We're going to go for an MVC5 controller which is empty. Click add. Well, for the purpose of this demo we may as well call it Hello World. Click enter. Alright, so as you can see, what we've actually got here is just an MVC controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a prefix on the controller here, which happens to be what our controller is inheriting from. This is inheritance. So let's say that our Hello World controller, rather than inherits from controller, let's go ahead and say inherits from API controller. Now, I suspected this would happen. Visual Studio's going to complain slightly, but it's alright. Just hover over the red line, click on the drop down, and then click on using system.web.http. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the using statement for system.web.mvc because I don't think we're going to need it. Let's get rid of that. Now obviously, because we're now inheriting from an API controller as opposed to a controller, we need to change what we are returning, because we no longer will be returning an action result. So let's change that to string. Let's keep it simple. And obviously we can't return a view, so let's change that to a string, and no surprises for guessing what we're going to return. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and build this. So Control Shift B, and then let's click play. Play or debug. Let's go ahead and click on API. Hopefully we should have something. Can we do? We have a new endpoint. Hello world post API / hello world. Well, actually we don't want post in this example. We want a get. But let's have a look at what happens if we try to call it in a browser. So let's copy this URL. Let's paste it in over here. Let's flip back and copy. Actually, let's click on this and let's copy this bit here. So that's what we need to. That's where we need to go in order to call this. So let's get rid of help on the end. So we're just going to leave localhost and the port. Let's paste that in. That looks good. Let's click enter. As you can see, let's zoom in a little bit, shall we? As you can see, we've got a little error message here. The requested resource does not support HTTP method get. So when you go to these endpoints in a browser, by default you're going to be going to the get HTTP method. So let's go ahead and tell the controller, the API controller, that we want it to be a get. So let's stop debugging. Let's go ahead and add an attribute here. Let's see how good my memory is. HTTP get. IntelliSense always saves the day. Alright, is that squiggly line? Yep, gonna go. It has. Excellent. I think we're looking good. Let's build it. So you can either select build up here or you can do Control Shift B. I actually would suggest learning the shortcuts in the long run. It'll save you a lot of time. Let's go ahead and click play and see what we're playing with. Let's see what we've got. Alright, so it's a little bit big. Let's zoom out a bit. There we go. Let's click on API. Let's click on, good news. It says get, which is fantastic. Let's click on it. Let's copy the path. Actually we've already got it open in a tab. How cool is that? So what we're going to do, we're just going to click enter on the URL and hopefully we get something better back. Yeah, superb. We get hello world, as you can see. Don't be alarmed that it's XML. It's just because that's the default return type, if you like, when you call it in a browser. Depending on where you call it from, you may get JSON. Obviously, if you're calling it from C#, it'll serialize back into an object. So I think that probably covers everything for this video. There are obviously lots of other things to touch on with regards to Web API. I may also consider doing a .NET Core as well in another video, but that wraps it up for this video. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, go ahead and do me a favor and click the like button. It really helps to know what sort of content to provide, and if you want to see similar content to this in the future, why not consider subscribing. And until the next time, take care.